Welcome, everyone. Let's get this meeting started. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the City of Indian Rocks meeting of the City Commission meeting for Tuesday, October 14th, 2025. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stand for a few moments of silence. Thank you. Lori, would you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Jude Bond.
Here.
Commissioner John Bigelow.
Present.
Commissioner Hillary King.
Here.
Vice Mayor Commissioner Janet Wilson.
Present.
Mayor Commissioner Denise Ellsberg.
Here. Thank you. Let's start with the presentations. I'd like to call the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office up for their presentation this evening.
Good evening, I'm Sergeant Derek Schuler of Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. I'm the A&M supervisor for the beaches out here.
Welcome.
I'm going to go over kind of some of the stats from the past month. So when it comes into the property and first crimes last month, the month of September, there was a total of 6 offenses, 3 were assaults, and 3 were thefts. That was just a little bit up from the 4 that were the month prior. In the month of September, a total of 11 people were arrested for a total of 16 charges. Just kind of some of the charges that were taking place last month were trafficking drugs, 1 domestic battery, 1 possession of controlled substance, 1 possession of drug paraphernalia, 1 resisting arrest, 4 trespass after warnings, 1 warrant arrest, and then some traffic misdemeanors. There's a DUI, no valid license, just some other DUI-related charges. For total activity in the month of September, there were 683 events in the city of Indian Rocks with a total of 900 deputies responding. Out of those, kind of a breakdown is 205 traffic stops, 121 record patrols, 70 area checks, 39 illegally parked vehicles, 29 911 hangups, 26 assist citizens, 23 ordinance violations, about 19 suspicious people, house checks, and that kind of drops down from there. All other miscellaneous stuff throughout the city. For the month of September, there was 0 vehicle crashes and a total of 219 citations issued into between warnings and citations throughout the city. If there's any questions about individual stuff or anything like that, I can answer that.
Does the commission have any questions?
No.
I do.
Okay.
Have you seen any changes, like in the types of things going on in the city? Any picking up anybody different, or like drugs, or?
Not really. It's kind of really hit and miss, or not really much at all. Just every once in a while, gets a car stopped here and there. One of the beach accesses that's usually not even anyone pertaining to the city. That usually seems to be where these couple random drug arrests or
Okay.
that, and then like a couple trespass violations that we get is just unfortunately the trade gets that common linger here and there, but it's really kind of picking up
Are you
here.
seeing many people open carry?
I haven't seen any out here at all.
I
yet.
haven't
No,
either.
I haven't seen a single one in here, at least. Hopefully it doesn't become an issue of people trying to talk that or have it, but I haven't seen nothing yet.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Next, we're going to call up the Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District. Is there anybody here from the fire department? I guess not. Okay, then we'll move on to the presentation by Action 2000. Okay, then let's move on to the presentation by the IRB Home.
This wasn't, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Yes.
The city approached, I'm Sarah McIntyre with IRB Home, the president there now. And the city approached us to collaborate with them for HollowFest this year. And we just wanted to enthusiastically, of course, say yes to that. Us, IRB Home and A2K, are both going to be giving $3,000 to support Howard Fest. And we just wanted to say thank you to everyone at the city for always supporting our efforts in the community. Everything we do truly takes a team effort, and we're so grateful to work hand in hand with the city of Indian Rocks Beach throughout the year. A2K just had Oktoberfest, and of course, none of it happens without the city's integral help. We're especially honored to contribute to one of the city's own special events, and one that's created so many fun and lasting memories for local kids and their families. So thank you for letting us play a part in helping make that happen. Our little town has been through a lot, but we're bouncing back, and we're doing it together. Communities and opportunities like this, where we come together, support one another, and celebrate this amazing place we get to call home is what it's all about. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
I want to make a motion to add one more presentation. Can I get a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
This is a proclamation honoring Lauren Kornichuk upon earning the certified municipal clerk designation. We appreciate all you do. You're welcome.
I appreciate you all very, very much. Thank you so much.
So now we're going to open up the floor for public comments. Each speaker has a 3-minute time limit. Any member of the audience may come forward, give their name and address, and state any comment or concern that they have regarding any matter over which the City Commission has control, excluding agenda items. All statements made to the City, the Commission, shall be made to the City Commission as a whole, not directed to any individual City Commission member. And no personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks shall be permitted. No speaker shall be interrupted, and no debate shall occur between the speaker and the City Commission. Would anybody like to speak this evening?
Michelle Harvey at 1900 Park Street, Indian Rocks Beach. I just want to say as a resident, thank you, Dan Carpenter, for your many years of dedication to the city and the finance department.
Thanks, man.
So I miss you. You're miss us love.
Who else has a comment? Come on up here, John, I saw you. You wanted to come up. Hi, Nancy.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Good to see you. Pinellas County has just dedicated over, by the way, Nancy Obarski, 708 Beach Trail. I'm out of practice. Pinellas County has just dedicated over $100 million of our bed tax money to pay for our upcoming beach renourishment. And I think we're all happy about it, but just so we understand, this is payment of a bill that Congress told the Army Corps of Engineers they had to pay for 50 years for us, with many years left to go on the authorization. When Congress made that promise to us, there was never a mention of an easement. As a matter of fact, there were a lot of years of renourishments with no easements. Then came the Army Corps' alleged policy change. And instead of the county calling it what it was 8 years ago, clear-cut governmental overreach, there was crickets. Recently, I was glad to at least hear the county administrator and the coastal management staff finally admit that they had a difference of opinion with the Army Corps' interpretation of their policy. That was 8 years in coming. And if every one of you isn't incensed that instead of admitting that fact back then, they browbeat the beachfront residents into signing away important property rights year after year, with so many different easements that I have no idea how they're keeping track of who signed what. To this very day, the county continues to depict us non-signers as money-grubbing, selfish villains. About a month ago, they let the public think that there would be gaps in the public beach because of us non-signers. Was that true? No, that wasn't true. The entire public beach, from the erosion control line where the dunes used to be to the water, was always going to be renourished regardless of who signed the easement. And we can see that is clearly the case now with Indian Shores being complete. Now the county's saying we're going to have low swimming pool areas up by our seawalls if we don't sign, and that's the latest, sign that latest, greatest evolution of the easement. The truth is, if the county hadn't handled things so poorly, I may have signed the current easement. I went to the last meeting up at the Bel Air Taj Mahal up there, and somebody from the audience got up and suggested that they sue us all for eminent domain, so I walked out. I figure I might as well just wait for my check. Let me point out the irony here. The Army Corps cannot place federally funded sand on private property, a premise no beachfront owner would disagree with. We aren't looking for somebody to pay our bills, but the county is now begging us to sign an easement so they can put county-funded sand in our easement areas. It makes no sense. And that's why some taxpayers in this county have referred to this as welfare for the rich beachfront owners. I can see how they might feel that way given the circumstances. As an afterthought, we had to spend 10 grand to get the dunes off of our deck. If they're in such a magnanimous, charitable mood, I should have sent that bill to the county. But forget about hindsight, guys. We got to look forward. The county has made it clear it's a one-time renourishment. So we need to start right now on seriously challenging the Army Corps of Engineers policy. And if the county's not doing it, you guys need to stand up and insist they do. The Corps pulled it off. They got out of paying the bill, and a huge one, and we can't let it happen again. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Hey, John.
Hey. So, John Nelson, 2104 Beach Trail. I wanted to say this at the beginning, but I've been on the beach 50 years. The beach is the best it's ever looked. I've never signed an easement, never will sign one. I don't know what all the hoopla is about. But over the past, since the last meeting, I've had conversations with a few H&Hers. And one of them was reminding me that I had said something about the obnoxiousness of little kids swimming in pools. And I thought, did I ever say that? But I did say that. But I also said something about the obnoxiousness of little kids chasing seagulls and having to listen to the squawking of the seagulls and the screaming of it. And when I walk out my front door, I have to watch these guided missiles going through the footballs and oh my God. And I was making, and thousands of people in my front yard every day, out my front door every day. Then also said, I hope no one took that seriously because I was not complaining about it. I came to the conclusion that the H&Hers, how would you say H&Hers, they have such a dislike for what has happened in the neighborhood that they hate the people that rent there. There's probably more short-term rentals within 70 feet of my house than any of y'all. Really true. But the rest of y'all combined, okay? Because there's just that many. And I talk to these people, and they're not evil. You know, football teams, volleyball, family reunions, you know, and I talk to them. And maybe it's just because I'm a lifeboat gregarious guy. Boy, I left a bad taste in my mouth. But anyway, they're nice people. They had the cardinal sin that they did was decide to spend money in Indian Rocks Beach on vacation. How dare they? The city commission has to find a way that we welcome these people to our city. Even if they happen to come into a short-term rental that you don't like, they're not the villain. They are our welcome visitors. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Does anyone else have a comment this evening?
Just to follow up, John Fansfield for Prairie Harbor Drive South.
just to follow up on a good friend, John House. I think that he or anybody else ought to look at the people who have gone before the commission and talked about the atrocities that happen in residential neighborhoods with the people running next to them, the party houses. We have meeting after meeting after meeting. We hear people that have left. I have 3 of my friends that left because they couldn't stand it any longer, living in a town in their forever house. To say that, anyways, all you have to do is look at that and see what it's like. There are so many people. One lady said she wanted to live here after her husband died. Those are going to be her golden years, and it became her brass years. And that's the way it is. People are leaving because they can't stand unsupervised businesses. The people that come there, the people that the investors, almost all of them out of town, out of state, don't even see who's there. They don't see how many people are there. They don't see what they're doing there. And that, there's no way on earth any honest person can say businesses, particularly disruptive ones, belong in an area that's zoned residential. That's my business. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anyone else have a comment this evening? I'm closing the public comment, and we will move on to reports of the city attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One item I have is the city clerk's salary review based on her contract of employment entered into between her and the city commission. On completing her certified municipal clerk CMC designation, states the council shall consider her salary increase. There's some information was sent out by email regarding various surrounding area clerk compensations. So I would ask that the commission honor the agreement by considering at this time salary adjustment. The city clerk is a charter seat, so her salary is set exclusively by the commission. So that will be for the commission to discuss as far as what's appropriate and how you go about having that consideration and whether you do want to give an increase, and if so, what amount.
Who would like to lead that discussion?
Do you want it in the form of a motion to open discussion on it?
We can.
Okay, then I will make a motion that we open discussion on increasing our city clerk's salary, and I will back that up with a motion that we increase it by 10%. And I'm arriving at that figure looking back at my career in education, and when we would obtain additional education, that seemed to be about the usual average of going to the next level of education. So I would make the motion to be 10%.
Let's do the discussion right now. When the clerk was hired, she was hired at what we all agreed was a reduced rate, while the certification was to be completed, and it was agreed upon at that time that once the certification was completed, we would bring the salary up to essentially market rate. 10% doesn't do that.
So do you think we need to go higher than that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it would be good to get a feel for what everybody thinks market rate is, because I appreciate that we have some data in front of us, and we can also look at what what other clerks are currently compensated for. However, I think similar to how we did with our city manager discussion, it would be good to look at cities that are comparable size and scope, and perhaps not the ones that are, $50,000, $70,000, or sorry, 50,000, 70,000 people, residents. So that might take some out of the mix if we really want to look at an average rather than just looking at a percentage increase.
John, any thoughts?
No, I think the compensation should be there. We just have to determine how much. what the going rate is for a city or so. Go from there.
I don't have the number in front of me. Does anybody recall what the last clerk's salary was upon leaving?
I think Deanne wasn't she around 80,000?
Yeah,
Yeah, she was after that.
Like 93?
It was,
I would have to look to give you, I'm remiss, I don't want to put a number, but it was probably closer to the last number, but, you know, definitely a different tenured status. You know, I don't know if that's the comparison, you know, at different times as well, so. But I'm afraid I can't, I'd have to go look, but I can certainly look that up.
so it sounds like people want some more data, is that fair to say?
I'd kind of like to come to a conclusion this evening if we can.
I mean, that would be
We're
nice, yeah.
given some information about what other city clerks make all up and down the peninsula.
Yeah.
And I think the average salary was like 110,000 now for the city clerk.
That's right, and that did include those cities with a much larger populations, more departments, and a lot of tenure. There were a couple of clerks in there with 20+ years tenure.
Right.
28, one of them had 28 years. So I think we may want to consider just taking out some of the outliers and then looking at an average after removing some of the outliers.
All right, let's break out the spreadsheets, that was.
Sorry, engineer is missed.
Well, and that's where 10% puts us into that range.
It does, yeah, and I did another calculation that 10% would have put in the range of the ones that are immediately close to us with tenure of about 7 years. If we wanted to broaden that a little bit more and also consider, you know, the amazing job that Lauren does, we may want to look at something of, you know, a broader average, and that would get it at about a 13.5% increase.
And what would that be then?
That number would be 95,766 and 64 cents if we want to be that precise. So 95,800 roughly.
Okay, so would everybody be in agreement with 96,000?
Yes.
I want to look at this in a few more minutes.
Okay. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm still thinking,
Okay.
what are yours?
I'd really like to get her over the $100,000 mark. I think she's well worth
I'll
it.
second that motion.
She's amazing.
Let's do it even 100,000. That works for me.
Does that work for you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay with that. Somebody want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we increase the city clerk salary to an even $100,000 per year.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we're going to move on to the report of the city manager.
Matt, you all done?
Are you?
I need to, an item that's not on here, but it's not an agenda item, but I would like to request that we schedule another executive session to discuss some pending litigation. So I've asked the clerk to reach out and get dates and times that are good for everybody in the next couple of weeks. Just wanted that on the record that I'm requesting it today. And about those whenever we settle on the date of this.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
Anything else? Okay.
Okay. First, I'd like to welcome the commission, staff, and all the residents back into City Hall. And, you know, credit where credit's due. The guy sitting 2 spots down from me certainly led the charge. You know, him and the rest of the city staff with the commission support and the resident support, a lot of hard work, and I think it looks great. I'd like to just really thank Dean and everyone else that helped kind of get us back in here. So good to be home. Second, we'd like to thank A2K, the homeowners, and Crabby Bills, I think, is also, if I'm right, putting a little bit in, like they have traditionally towards Hollowfest. And just remind the commission and the public that that is at 10 to 1, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturday, October 25th, right here in front of these doors in the parking lot between here and Cole Park, the city's Hollowfest event, great event. I'd like to thank staff, especially Michelle to my left, for all the hard work, you know, leading the charge on that. Certainly not the only one, but she's an integral part of that, a lot of effort, and I think it'll be a great event. And I don't want to put them in a bad spot, but I think perhaps that might be everybody's first chance to meet the new, selected city manager, Ryan Henderson. So, if he's not here, that's not against him, but he's going to try and make it as well for that. And then, on a little bit of a business note, I'd like to ask Dean to give the commission and the residents an update on 2 things. The timing of the beach renourishments project in terms of our turn in the barrel, if you will, for the stuff you see offshore. And then also a little bit of an update. We talked about this maybe last commission meeting, that we were done with our end of undergrounding and we spent all the money that the county gave to us through the Big C, but Duke still has to pull the infrastructure through the pipes, and Dean's going to talk a little bit about the timing on those 2 things.
Well, thank you, Dan. Good evening, Mayor, Commission. We'll start off with the beach renourishment. The first report I had, and everything I'm giving you is tentative. Okay? The first report we had on the mapping system for the beach renourishment project was supposed to be October 13th, which was yesterday. However, the contractor decided to shift south versus coming. They went to approximately First Avenue near Rock Beach, and then they shifted south to Indian Shores, with the understanding that we were going to be second in line. However, the contractor shifted in on Pinellas County, and they went to Sam Key, and they're progressing south at that point. When I spoke with Pinellas County this afternoon, we're tentatively scheduled for middle of November. So that's what I have as of 4:30 this afternoon. I can't promise you that they're not going to change again. It's an ever-evolving thing, and the county is somewhat at the contractor's scheduled back in and stuff like that. I know they had a barge go down, so that's why they went north and stuff like that. But when I talked to Pinellas County, mid-November is what they said. So that's when we'll see it. And it'll start from the north end of our city heading south. Utility underground project. As Dan mentioned, we did receive $5.6 million from Pinellas County on the beautification Gulf Boulevard underground utilities project. Our work has been complete for approximately 90 days. We had a teleconference this afternoon, early this afternoon, which all of Duke Energy partners were on there, and they all were on green light, and then we're going to start in Mirage Beach and right after Veterans Day. Now again, there is certain areas that they're going to start with. Can I say they're going to start at 1511 Gulf Boulevard and work south of the traffic light? I don't know that. They're gonna start, they may start the middle of work both ways, I'm not sure of that. But it also is gonna include the street lighting project too. So there may be multiple street lights out there because we don't want a dark corridor. However, they are on a green light from every engineer I talked to this afternoon to, again, right after Veterans Day to start in your speech. Be happy to answer any questions on those two projects if you have.
Does the commission have any questions for Dean?
No.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, well, thank you, Dean and Mayor. That's all I have for a report, but I'd also be glad to answer any questions you may have for me.
Does anybody have any questions for the city manager?
Thank you.
I guess I do.
Uh-oh.
I want to know, like, how is the city doing as far as all the homes getting either renovated after the hurricane, or how many homes do you think that we have that are not currently underway?
Well, I don't have specifics, Mayor, but obviously that's a topic that probably comes up in the office fairly daily, and it's been one of the numerous things code enforcement has been working through with homeowners. And I believe the count was 40 plus for demos where they've actually pulled permits. There's another easily dozen plus that are in a state of we're not quite sure as the city, and maybe that's because the homeowner hasn't yet decided which way they're going to go, in terms of demolishing it, rebuilding it, selling it. And while that's certainly their right within that, a couple of those unfortunately have turned where we've had to enact a little bit of enforcement for maintaining the property. As we got through the summer, overgrowth and complaints about things, but not too bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, any of that's not good, and certainly as a result of the storms we had last summer, but I think, again, staff is on top of that, and, as empathetically as possible, working with homeowners to also enforce the code and kind of get us through that. So, we'll do our best to deal with those case by case and try and, mitigate them, but I think we have not washed them all through yet. So we've still got at least easily a dozen that we're kind of working through that process.
Okay. And then we're starting on the people that did not seek permits.
Well, yeah, I sent everybody an email today with a sample letter. Even though the county is our building department, and they enforce the Florida Building Code, which I'll voice what's been told to you numerous times by people in this seat before, we've had no problems and very few complaints as the county being the building official and inspection entity for the city throughout the several years, if not 4 or 5 years, since we went that route when we used to have it in-house back in the day. Unfortunately, one of the outcomes of a flood event in a floodplain is the responsibility for floodplain management. And the county is not willing to take all that responsibility as our building official of record. They still work with us and our residents and business owners to issue permits, but what we have talked about at numerous meetings, and we've done a lot of discussion. There was a lot of extra process to rebuilding a floodplain to maintain your flood rating, and we're at the point where the county and ourselves included as a city for floodplain, a soft attempt to try and encourage anyone who may have done work where a permit might have been required and they just didn't know that, and or the county wants to take a first approach of encouragement to go through the process, have your property inspected, get permits where they're needed, and get it all checked off. That's in everyone's best interest for our floodplain management and our CRS rating and all those things we talk about going forward. So, challenging to go through what FEMA did on the first assessment with Tidal Basin, what the county has done to date by issuing permits, reviewing of who's received FEMA flood insured checks for insurance, all the efforts that we've done as a city to work with Civil Serve and Craig and Hetty, who have been to multiple meetings back when this was, on the forefront. A narrowed down list of who we think potentially this may apply to, and certainly if it doesn't, the response will be, I got this letter, but here's my circumstance, and that's certainly nothing but a good thing. We will now identify there wasn't really the flooding that tidal basin determined at that house. There was nothing that needed permits. We take that off the list and we move on. But that process began in the last couple days. And again, as the manager of the floodplain, our city, the county, we had to send out those letters on behalf of the city to our residents with the soft approach saying, please contact us and the Pinellas County Building Department in conjunction for assistance with the potential for needed building permits, post-storm, and repairs. So that's gone out, and again, we're not unique to us. The county has done that already for the unincorporated, and I believe the other cities up and down the coast that had a flood event as well have been doing this either through their partnership with the Pinellas County Building Department. We're one of 6 that belongs to that. As a contract city, and then of course a lot of folks are doing this through the private sector safely. So is that kind of answer?
Yeah, I guess what you're saying then is anybody did not get a permit and they've already renovated their home, they need to go back through Eddie, right?
Correct. They would contact us in conjunction with the same process for all the people that did pull a permit and already been through it.
Yeah.
They're willing to do that now with these folks is what they call an after the fact permit, and try and work them through the process, get it all inspected and signed off. The only difference is you could have done all that through June and they waived the permit fee. They're not imposing penalties, which are normal to after the fact permitting, but the regular permit fees would be in place. That's really the only difference. And that's through December. That's through December 31st. I'm sorry. That's their approach. That the county's doing like a 2.5 month. Let's try and a soft approach to encourage people to come in that may fit into that box.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Could I ask a follow-on though? So the county then I assume will come out and inspect for those that choose to, become compliant?
Correct. The county, is always still going to be the agency of inspection and, signing off that, it's within the building code. No different than the folks that have already been through it after the flood event and prior to a flood event. They are the enforcer of the Florida building code, so where permits and inspections are required, they will perform that, correct. But we have to sign off that we agree that that's all that was needed on that house based on the information and paperwork we have, which includes going all the way back to tidal basins review, and there's paperwork and attestation to how much water in the house, all that good stuff that I'm sure folks in the audience have already been through. I got folks sitting up here with me who've had flooded houses, so same process. It's just really being coined now an after the fact permit application and process. And again, the whole idea is to try and keep the city's floodplain status and CRS, am I using the right acronym?
Yes, and the National Flood Insurance Program.
National Flood Insurance Program rating intact. Because in theory, not in theory, just like what's happened in other coastal communities around us in past years, the final act of FEMA is to come in and audit and inspect who did what, when and how, and to what degree, and that's how they measure our response as a floodplain management for a coastal.
Even for people that don't carry flood insurance?
Yeah, you don't have to have flood insurance, but if you do want flood insurance, it's available to residents through the subsidized federal flood insurance program, and in theory at a discounted rate. But we don't want to get into all that. But unfortunately, it's not a one-size-fits-all. So if you're not interested in the flood insurance, the floodplain requirements are probably not something, but it's an all for one, one for all. It's a community rated idea. So even if you don't buy flood insurance and you're not interested in participating in that program, all residents are affected by the level of compliance as a city we put towards maintaining that post-storm.
Okay.
That kind kind of answer everybody's question?
Yeah, it does. I guess the dilemma will be, I mean, we all know the tidal basin information wasn't really data because it was so faulty.
Correct.
So people that got letters saying they were substantially damaged that actually had no water in their home, and people that didn't get, I mean, it's I don't know how that's gonna work out. And then I think of the plethora of people on my street who rebuilt their homes without getting permits and were done in December and January, and I know they had as much water as I did. There's no way that you can go back now and say that you have water in your home. So I think it's just, it's really gonna be it seems to me like now we're doing a paperwork exercise to cover ourselves with permits.
Yeah, there's no question. It's a challenging process to try and, continue to go through and check the box to maintain this CRS and this floodplain certification. But I think, the penalties are pretty clear if you don't. And no question, Commissioner, I've been front and center, and it was all hands on deck in terms of employees working with residents, and there was no shortage of instances where tidal basin's review of a house was nowhere near, accurate for what really happened on either side. No flood and they had flood, extensive flooding and they didn't have it, and that's part of the challenge. And a lot of time and resources has gone in to at least try and help our residents get through the process and truly detail what really happened to them and provide assistance with getting through the paperwork. But it's been a long, arduous process, and unfortunately it's not over yet because we're into, let's call it the second half, where it's, let's try and, after the fact, piece the ones together that may or may not have needed something. So, yeah, it's the 14-month later hangover from the storm.
I know we're not alone, so it's, I think I'm not the only town going through this and others before us, so it's probably another reminder that when we do have our city manager on board, a good opportunity to review.
Yeah, he will have no shortage of.
Make sure that we're not in that same pickle again next time when we're relying on this data.
Yeah, a lot was learned, how much you can do to get out ahead of it, God forbid if there was another one, but, there will be some fresh data to try and do that. And, if that's all well documented, and the new manager will also have lots of co-partners in the community that you can lean on for who's doing what and how and when. The other 5 cities that partner with Pinellas County, and even the other city managers that either are doing it on their own in-house with a building department or through a contract like Safe Building. So, there's, and we try to maintain some continuity and do what the county did for the unincorporated residents, in terms of the language. By no means does this letter, hopefully is taken as some sort of ominous threat or anything. It's just, again, a soft approach for this, that, I think this applies, some of the records we have access to indicate it may, but, no accusatory, any of that. Again, soft approach, that's the terms of the county. So that's where we're at right now. I think you'll get a follow-up from Ryan probably closer to December 31st for what, Chapter 2 of the enforcement of floodplain management looks like, in terms of what the county's doing and what he feels is prudent for the city, in his time. So that'll be the good news. He'll have a couple months on board to make a decision and work with you guys and the community to kind of see where we go next in terms of the floodplain. But we're still in the floodplain, unfortunately.
Yes, we are. And we're still in hurricane season.
Well, a lot better one so far than last year.
Is that it?
That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Yes. No, I would be remiss, I guess, if I don't say thank you. I don't want to tear up. Lose my macho thing here, but I'm very proud to work for you guys in the city. I can't do that. I'll tear up, but thank you. It's been, again, nothing but a source of pride to work here. I wish to see the best going forward.
We'll miss you in paradise.
Mayor, A2K just showed up and they would like to just say a few words, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, come on up, Paul.
thanks. I'm A2K. No, I'm kidding. Good evening. Paul Zagami, Action 2000. Dan, thank you. Appreciate everything you've done for us. On behalf of Action 2000, for anybody in the audience that doesn't know who we are, and I want to say thank you to Sarah because I think she at least gave us a few words. But Action 2000 is your local Indian Rocks Beach community nonprofit. We're here to work with the city to help preserve and beautify Indian Rocks Beach. We do a lot of work with the city manager, Dan, especially Dean. He keeps us honest and most of the things that we want to do. I appreciate that too, Dean. But we're here to also present tonight a check for HollowFest. Thank you, Michelle, for coordinating and helping put that on this year in the amount of $3,000. So we appreciate what you're doing too. Can I give this to you, Dan?
Sure.
Thank you, Paul. Really,
Thanks, guys. Thank you, City Commissioner.
really nice event last weekend.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Oktoberfest was a big success
Yeah.
for us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, thanks. Now we're going to move on to the reports of the city commission. Hugh, do you have anything for us this evening?
I don't.
Mr. Bigelow?
I don't have anything this evening, no.
Nothing for me.
I do. First off, I agree, Paul. Oktoberfest was such a great event. The turnout was amazing. Also want to note that coming up November 15th for our IRB home crew, they're going to do a putt-putt pub crawl. I can't wait to be a whole host because I think it's going to be pretty hilarious. So if you're not doing anything on November 15th and you want to come putt-putt or you want to come help, check that out. Starting next month, I will have a property tax toolkit provided for our city individually that tells what would happen if some of the legislative tax amendments would go through. So I'll be available to go to various groups or talk to anybody next month with that. I've already met once with my Florida League of Cities Legislative Committee. Our second meeting is this Friday. But just a little bit about how that operates. There are 5 committees. Development, Code Compliance, and Redevelopment. That's the committee that I was appointed to. There's one on Finance and Taxation, Intergovernmental Relations, Mobility and Emergency Management. There's one Municipal Operations, and the final is Utilities, Natural Resources, and Public Works. Each of these committees are made up of elected and non-elected representatives. Due to sunshine, there's no more than one from any particular city on a committee. They're appointed by the league president, and then there are league staff assigned to each committee, who each committee comes up with one legislative priority based upon what our particular areas are, and one policy position. The staff then helps coordinate visits to the various committees, visits to Tallahassee, and lobbying efforts. So being represented by the Florida League of Cities in these capacities, I think is extremely important for our city. Also, through that, I've become aware of Suncoast League of Cities, which is Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough. They again work with Florida League of Cities staff to lobby on behalf of member cities. So going forward, I will be working with a new city manager to make sure that we are rejoined to Suncoast League of Cities and are represented there also. Especially being a small city, our biggest hope in getting heard in Tallahassee and getting any kind of momentum is for us to join with these other cities. I report.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. That was very informative. I did speak with Nick DeSigley this week about his efforts to move the elections to November. And it sounds pretty much like that's the direction the state's going to be going in. And then probably not this coming year, but the year after that, our elections will no longer be in March, they'll be in November. But more to come on that. And like you, I think the Oktoberfest this weekend was a fantastic event. It was great seeing so many people come out, and the residents really enjoyed all the activities. The vice mayor hosted and scored for the keg toss and the Stein carry. And that was a blast, so. But yeah, it was, the weather's beautiful to be out there this time of year. Thank you. No additions or deletions. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Matthew, would you read, please?
Yes, the consent agenda consists of the approval of the September 9th, 2025 closed executive client session meeting minutes, the approval of the September 9th, 2025 regular city commission meeting minutes, approval of the September 10th, 2025 special city commission meeting minutes, approval of the September 24th, 2025 special city commission meeting minutes, approval of acting city manager to sign the amended interlocal agreement with Pinellas County, building and development review departments. The city shall collect the city of Indian Rocks Beach development impact fee, recreation impact fee, and collections of Pinellas County multi-modal impact fee. And we have a proclamation for breast cancer awareness.
Can I have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept all items on our consent agenda and that the proclamation for Breast Cancer Awareness Month is approved.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I would like to mention that I'm the one that wanted this proclamation for breast cancer awareness. I'm a two-time survivor. And actually, I got breast cancer the last time right when I became a commissioner. And even through all the surgeries and the treatments I went through, I never missed a commission meeting. So that's probably why nobody found that one. I just kept showing up. Thank you, I appreciate that. Now we're going to move on to the public hearings. I'd like to open the public hearing. Matthew, would you read, please?
Sure. Item under public hearing is ABT case 26-2025, quasi-judicial proceedings, 501 Gulf Boulevard, F&J Market LLC, doing business as Gulf Market. This is a request for a 2 APS beer wine package sales for off-premise consumption for the Gulf Market located at 501 Gulf Boulevard in Ross Beach, Florida. Parcel identification number 1230130337764003010. Do you have anything to present?
Just a small thing.
Okay.
Would I give you one square?
Yes, since this is a quasi-judicial proceeding, Madam Clerk, would you swear anybody in who would like to testify at this?
If you could mind me.
Sure. Is anybody here to speak to or testify on this item for the Gulf Market? If you would, raise your right hand. All right, I'm sorry.
You could just.
You're fine.
Yeah, the rest of it's okay.
Do you swear and affirm to tell the truth under the penalties of perjury?
Yes.
Okay, that's all we do.
You can just hold it for a minute. I'm just going to introduce you.
City Commission, I just wanted to let you know that the planning consultant reviewed the application. It was determined that it is in compliance with our Chapter 6 and alcohol beverage and Chapter 110 in our zoning. Pinellas County Sheriff's Office also did a review, and there's no offenses. And I did not receive any letters against this alcohol designation.
Okay, good. Does anybody have any questions?
I got some questions. Is that property going to be selling fuel?
Yes, sir.
What kind of work did you do with the tanks that are under now, since it's been closed for such a long time?
That's the shell.
Could you please state your name and address, sir?
What's your name, sir?
Paula, the owner name.
Ma'am?
Jamie Hussein.
Can you please state your address?
501 Gulf Boulevard.
Any question about the fuel tanks? What kind of work have you done since that facility's been closed for such a long time?
The fuel tank, the Shell gas station, they're gonna take care of all that. The company, they're gonna get all this tanks inspected and everything. The state, the government, they're gonna do all that before we do. So we're just responsible inside the store. The government, the Shell gas station, they're gonna take care of all this, the oil, the gas. They're gonna inspect everything, all the pumps, they're gonna inspection before we open. They're gonna do all the fine stuff, and they're responsible for all that.
What are you striving for your open date over there?
Well, we were trying to open it last, the beginning month, but we have to say, we cannot get a license we have to do the hearings, so that's why we hold everything right now. So when everything is done today, so hopefully we're pushing like first of the month, we're trying to open, so November 1st, we're trying to really push it, get everything done.
Does that include the fuel?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't have any more questions.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Do you have anything you want to add? Sir, ma'am?
We're just excited to be in this community and to meet.
We've been doing this 35 years. We already have on location SMP, and we opened the same way. It was closed down for 3 years. The city was excited and everything, and we cleaned it up and we got it going and all that, so.
We're looking forward to it.
We could promise you.
We're very excited.
I've been working hard 5 months and trying to do that place up.
Ready for motion?
I'm going to close the public hearing. And then the city commission can either make a motion or,
I make a motion to approve the request for the alcoholic beverage use designation of 2 APS beer wine package sales for off-premise consumption to Father Hussein Golf Market, which establishment is located at 501 Gulf Boulevard, Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, and legally described as Haven Beach, sub-block 3, lots 1, 2, and 3, at Southwest together with that part of Canal Avenue, parcel number 12-30-14-37764-003-010, with the following stipulation: repeated or intermittent nuisance activity and/or unlawful noise levels originating from the establishment or the parking area may result in the revocation of the alcoholic beverage designation.
do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we'll move on to other legislative matters.
Well, I guess it's only fitting that my curtain call act is a budget-related item, so here we go. Guys, we haven't had to do this since 2018, last time we didn't survive on the appropriation from the city commission at a fund level. But, so, to the new folks, here we are, the folks that were here back then. Anyways, I think we all know why, unfortunately, we have this budget adjustment item on the agenda tonight. 2 reasons, it's completely all tied to the hurricane, and, probably both equally, both generated debris and the solid waste funds in there, but probably mostly Helene. So, we just got done, and I thank the commission for all the hard work and approval of the budget that started on October 1st for fiscal 25-26, and we're 14 days into that. So far, so good. This is opening up last year's chapter for the fiscal 25, or the time frame of 10/1/24 to 9/30/2025, and you know, in the memo and the stuff provided to the commission in the packet, trying to keep this somewhat at a 300-foot level, you know, that total budget appropriation was $10.5 million for all funds. 5.3 of it for general fund and 1.7 for solid waste. When the dust settled, well, that's probably not a good word, when the sun set on September 30th and we worked through, and the proper way to get through an audit and get compliance is you got 60 days from the end of your fiscal year to adjust your budget where needed. So that's why we're here tonight. And depending on how tonight goes with this, you'll get a second reading of this in your November regular city commission. You adopt in with 2 readings, and you have to adjust in 2 readings. And I thank the city attorney for helping write up the ordinance 2025-05 that's attached. But the second page of the memo, it talks about how much into what funds. And basically, it's $2.691 million to the general fund, and it's $3.1 million to the solid waste fund. Those numbers should sound somewhat familiar as we have come before the commission at the request of the manager or the commission itself multiple times to talk about how we fared through the storm, how much we spent, how much we got back, and all that. This doesn't get into too much about how we got back, if at all, because you don't have to amend budgets for revenues and reimbursements. You have to amend budget for expenditures and appropriations. But I will take the opportunity to say, if we're asking for $5.79 million in reimbursement, we've gotten over $3.1 million of that back at this point. And, the majority of the money back for insurance and the general fund came in the form of our property insurance policy. There is a little bit in the general fund for significant damage assistance with civil serve engineering. That's a FEMA project. And then, of course, there's a $3.1 million FEMA project, of which $1,050,000 has been received by the city through a reimbursement up front. And a lot of effort's gone in, and that's almost, as Dean well knows, a daily or weekly effort to continue to work with FEMA and Department of Emergency Management to try and get the city all or as much of that back as we can. And, I won't say how much we will get and when, but I will just make sure the commission and the residents all know that, we are working hard to try and get all that money back, dot all the i's, cross all the t's, and that's in process. So anyways, first reading, we've got to appropriate the money to, check the box, to follow the budget process when you go over the total appropriations. The totals are on this page, and I would, as your acting city manager and finance director, I would, recommend approval of this ordinance as presented, and I'm trying to answer questions if you've got any.
And prior to consideration by the council, I'll read the ordinance. Ordinance number 2025-05, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Pinellas County, Florida, appropriating funds for operating expenses and adopting a budget amendment for fiscal year 2024-25 and providing for an effective date. Yeah, motion or discussion or vote.
So does anybody have any questions about why this budget amendment is in first reading?
Then I'll make a motion that ordinance number 2025-05, appropriating funds for operating expenses and amending the budget for the city of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida for fiscal year 2024-25 be approved on this first reading.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move on to the work session items, which is implementing paid parking.
I guess my curtain call wasn't the budget adjustment.
Nice try.
Remember, I'm much better at budget adjustments than I am new things. But going back a little bit, I can't remember exactly when, but it was pre-storm, and we had at least a discussion about paid parking with the commission. I don't think we got any further than the discussion and didn't ask for any specific consent or direction at that point. And tonight is another discussion, but probably staff will, and the city attorney will need a few areas of specific potential consent and direction, depending on which way the commission's mood is. But, there was an internal research effort done, if you will, with the manager, the public works director, and myself, to literally see what everyone else in Pinellas County, each communities are doing for paid parking. Of course, we all know that right now the only paid parking we have is the Pinellas County owned lot on 17th across from Guppies that we maintain, and we run the parking kiosk and revenue out of that, and we give the county 40%. And that's been a long-term relationship as long as I've been here, supported by the county. And, I think ultimately we gross in excess of $220,000, I believe, last year. And of course, there's expenses that come out of that to maintain, but that's after we pay the county the 40%. So what this discussion is talking about is really parking everywhere else in the community that currently is not paid parking. And we can all kind of get our head around that. It's beach accesses, it's city parks, and it's street parking in a few spots like the business triangle, for example, around the museum and whatnot. And I probably could turn some of this over to Dean, but I think we need to, I'll kind of narrow it down. Dean, what was the total number of spots that were identified within our research, or the actual number of spots that we have that's under discussion? I'm sorry, it's right here in front of me, 376?
Yeah, the public parking is 307.
Yeah. In addition to the county.
Correct.
That's correct.
So we're not really talking about the county, other than when you get into pricing, you may want to talk about the county and what it's currently at, which is $2.50 an hour while the county park is open, which those hours are, what are the hours of the county park?
They're open from sunrise to dusk.
Sunrise to dusk.
And what does the county do for their 40%?
They own the land.
Without the city owned it.
No, it's county owned, so.
They also provide maintenance of the parking area itself. We're responsible for the landscape and janitorial services of that parking.
And they do reimburse us for the cost of the parking machine for the 2 times we replaced it in the last 5 years. But, the majority of their VIG, if you will, can we use the word VIG in a public meeting? The 40% comes from the fact they own the land. So getting back to these 376 spots, a lot of them are in the beach accesses. I don't, so the 3 areas we need a little bit of help from the commission, or specific help, and this is what we talked about before, is the commission interested in paid parking in all 376 of the spots? And the study did find some cities charge around City Hall and parks and beach access areas, and some cities just charge beach access areas and not around their parks and City Hall. And we have that same reality, because we have a lot of spots that are considered beach access, but we also have spots that are close to the beach, but technically part of a park or a city building, for example. So we need you guys to think about that. You want all of them, just one piece or the other?
I think we should do them all at 4.
Okay, well, yeah, Jude's ready to rock. The other piece is hours of the day. There's some, we can't go 24 hours a day. If we do, I can tell you, we don't have anyone to enforce the parking after a certain period of time, because you know, a lot of the enforcement for this will be on the shoulders of current staff, if you will. And, you know, how that'll work out, I think, you know, we have 3 code enforcement folks. You know, we like to get them out and about as much as possible. There certainly are other things going on at any given time. And, you know, the sheriff's department enforces the county law to some degree, but in theory, I don't think the sheriff is our parking enforcement of first right, if you will. It's, you know, that's not necessarily part of our contract, but, you know, I don't really want to. They do ticket, no question about it, on a monthly basis, but I have not personally had a discussion, I don't believe Dean has. We will after we get some consensus tonight, you know, to what degree the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department is able to help with as many as 376 spots spread out throughout the rest of the community. And hopefully we can get, you know, some, and that'll help. But anyways, so where we want them, the hours of the day is kind of what we talked about before, for those that were here and remember that, you know, and we kind of got deep in and we talked about perhaps based on not having one on staff to enforce it after a certain time, with Little League and senior softball and things going on in parks in the late afternoon, evening, perhaps that wasn't the time of the day we wanted to, you know, make the parking paid. And then finally, what Jude alluded to is, the third item is a consensus on the, you know, either actual or ballpark amount, if you will, you know, for, as of, you know, if it's an hourly rate, for example. So 3 things, you know, where specifically with our 2 kind of options, beach access and off-beach access, times of the day, and then how much to charge. And that hopefully, you know, that and the memo at least tease up the discussion. And Matt, help me out here, depending on how this goes, this is just a discussion. You know, if the commission gives staff direction, we go back and work through that, and ultimately paid parking in additional places throughout the city would have to come back to the city commission in the form of a written, you know, ordinance, if you will.
Do we have to give the county anything, 40%?
No, Commissioner, these are all spots we own 100%, so nothing to do with it. No, that's a great question.
Could we also increase the rate of the county park?
We can't do that without asking. We have successfully asked in the future, and we probably would have already asked if it hadn't been for maybe the disruptions of the last 12 months to the city. The park was actually closed for a period of time. We've had some administrative changes. So yeah, you know, what we've done in the past is we've kind of gone to the county administrator, who may or may not have to take it with his authority, to the county commission, and we say, hey, we'd like to go from this number to that number on the county lot. And the few times that I've been a part of that, we've been approved each time. So depending on how this goes, we could certainly add that. You could give us direction to do that as well.
If whatever we decide, it would be good if it was just consistent. I know St. Beach County Park, theirs is $4.
Well, let's just lower the 40% to
60
20.
cents anyway.
Just lower the 40 to 20.
Well, I'm going to turn it over to the commission again. You know, this is, I know you guys hate when managers do this, but you know, you guys are the policy setters. We need help with where you want to go for policy setting on paid parking. So unless you have a question for me right now, I'll let you guys begin the discussion. Dean, do you have anything else to add?
And again, you have to consider if in fact, you're going to charge residents, not charge residents, decals. As Dan said, the timing is a big issue as well.
Can we start off where we left off? Like 2 years ago?
Let me expand upon what Dean said, so everybody's in the same, I think everybody knows this, but just in case. We give out a lot of parking decals, and that's fine. That's underneath the city's ordinance. You know, underneath the requirement of providing proof of residency, a registered car, you know, up to, you know, it's 2 per household. And I think we have in the neighborhood of 79 to 82.
71 resident spots.
I'm trying to add 8 more. You know, resident spots throughout. You know, that on its surface would not change at all. Those 71 spots would stay part of what's currently enjoyed by the residents with a decal, can park there, you know, if they're available without any charge. So we're talking about the spots at the beach access and at the triangle and at the county parks that are not designated as for resident only. We're not asking, unless you guys go that route, for any change to the current ordinance that allows for resident decals in those available spots.
May I? I think one of the things we had discussed before too was resident decals would allow for free parking in any of the paid parking spots.
I gotta be honest with you, Jude, your memory is a little better than mine, but, you know.
It's remarkable, really.
That, you know, the only thing I would say to that is, great, great for the residents certainly, but, you know, what that would ultimately do to the revenue possibility, for example, you can't, if a resident's in the paid spot, you can't have a paid person in the spot. So that's, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that's good, bad, right or wrong, and I don't remember that part of the conversation, but, you know, that's the reality. You know, if you open up spots, if the decal gets you to park for free, that's fine, you know, ultimately that would have a negative impact on the revenue stream potentially, which, you know, is just a consideration to think about. You know, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it open for free, you know. Who knows ultimately how many residents with decals are parking a paid spot versus not parking a paid spot at the end of the year. You'd have to revisit this from a revenue standpoint, so that should be a deciding factor. Just, you know, I guess everybody can understand that you can't have two cars in the same spot at the same time.
But I guess if we chose to go that route, we would just eliminate the designated resident parking spots, so those 71 would become potentially paid unless the residents park there.
Well, not necessarily, because right now, those are, no one other than a resident gets a shot at those spots. So I wouldn't recommend we do that. Those 71 spots, I think, are sacred and should be left alone.
Yeah. Well, and I'm with you. I remember being part of the conversation that we would open up to residents to park free in any of them. So you're remembering right.
And we wouldn't be setting a precedent there because I know Clearwater Beach is a 50% discount, and then St. Pete Beach allows residents free parking in the paid spots, so.
Yeah, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, there's certainly no reason why you can't go that route legally.
It would be an easy.
No, I said I don't see a reason.
Oh, it's not, yeah. And that seems to be a pretty easy way to sell the idea of setting up all this structure. You know, we could use the revenue. It's not going to cost residents anything. They're concerned about traffic and parking already. It's not alleviated and paid for it.
Well, and the thing is too, we've had to rebuild 26 beach accesses. It shouldn't just be residents that have to pay that bill. A lot of people come from outside, so this is them helping us pay the bill for making it nice for them. So I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and I think 4 is an easy number.
I like 4.
And I think the hours are pretty straightforward. I mean, we have parking hours at each already. Whether we use those same hours elsewhere on parks and whatnot. I mean, the parks kind of have some sort of set hours. And, you know, I guess as Dan was saying, you do have evening games and whatnot. Maybe around the parks or something, you just, I don't know, cut it off earlier or something, but I don't even know if you can do that.
Maybe make it till 5 o'clock around the park or whatever time it seems to be where whatever Little League starts theirs at, make it up to that point or whatever.
Although, you know, to the Little League exception,
true.
You know, I hate to charge Little League, I want to be that guy, but, you know, it's not abnormal either for people who are parking their cars to pay to park their cars.
My thoughts are beach access only, have the commercial area free.
If you notice, the commercial area, a lot of them are going to trying to restrict so that it isn't so much beach parking that's taking their spot. So I'm not sure what that discussion was, but if I remember correctly, Greg was going to have that discussion with them. But the thought was they probably would welcome the paid parking to help them.
Well, Krabby's has already managed the situation on their own because by, and they now have paid parking unless you get validated at the restaurant. So, I mean, Plumlee has paid parking, County Park has paid parking, so I mean, then we're looking at what kind of system do we want to use. There are already 3 systems in place here. If we go with something like Park Mobile, that's the one that most of the other municipalities around are using. It's pretty easy setup, they pay for just about everything. And that also means that if people are looking for a spot, on the app, it takes them wherever, they won't be driving around looking for a spot. You have to tell them where they can park, so. And their cut is quite reasonable, far less than the county.
Would it make sense to try to also change the county parking to a Park Mobile app? I know that we would have to go through the county probably for that, but just so it's.
I mean, I'm sure Park Mobile doesn't have to do it, they still want their cut, and the county would still want their cut, but it might simplify or streamline the operation.
Right, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I mean, it would certainly be something to ask them about when we were talking about raising the rate to them if we were going to.
I don't know anybody that's not familiar with how to use Park Mobile or one of those other apps, and the kiosks are kind of an anachronism at this point. So.
Yeah, so
Outdated.
to me, it all seems fairly, it just seems to be a matter of details. That's just my opinion. And of course,
I agree.
the room full of us, so.
Would you like the opinion of the public?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I've gotten a lot of it.
I'm
over
going
the
to
last
open it
2
up for
years.
public comment to discuss the paid parking. Would anyone like to come up?
Dan Langsberg, 442 Harbor Drive North. My only concern with making only the beaches paid parking is that instead of parking at the beach, they will now take up all of our city hall spots and walk to the beach. So personally, I think all spots should be paid parking with the residential and such. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Hi Kelly, good evening. Kelly Cicerek, 448 Harbor Drive South. I'm not a real fan of Park Mobile. Having a Park Mobile, which is a private company out of Atlanta, it's owned by Easy Park Group, they're fast becoming a monopoly. It's hard to go anywhere in the U.S. in a municipal place and not be forced to have a Park Mobile app on your phone. But if you're under 18 or you don't have a cell phone or you don't have a credit card, like if you're a foreigner, for instance, then you can't use Park Mobile app. So I like a cash alternative. So I believe St. Pete Beach, last time I was down there, they had paid parking, but they also had a cash alternative in addition to an app-based system. So that would be my preference. I think, paid parking is fine. I would like to see City Hall, for meetings be free for anyone who needs to attend. So those would be my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Anyone else?
Mullen, 481 Harbor Drive South. Dan, I believe you said that this would be managed by the staff that we have now. And that was part of this that concerns me because unless we have enforcement, it's really kind of worthless because people aren't just going to stay. And if they're not going to get a ticket and it gets around that they're not ticketing, then it's going to get abused. So with the revenue that this is going to generate, could we not have a meter maid that goes around and actually enforces this? Because right now our stickers, every time I go to the beach access, like Sunset, excuse me, Sunset or so, there's other people parking in the spots that are reserved for the residents. And I rarely see anybody enforcing that. So that's my biggest concern. Also, I know I'm struggling for y'all to hear me, but I'm struggling to hear all y'all. So pull your mics to your mouth, please, and speak up. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, everyone. Bob Copeland, 447 20th Avenue. I think it's a great idea to have paid parking. I'm kind of a detail-driven person, so at some point, perhaps if there was some map schematics, so we kind of had a better, and you all had a better vision of where these spaces would be, I would find that helpful. Kind of tying into what Beth just said, you know, you always have to hope for the best and plan for the worst, is that what they say? So what do you do for the people who don't pay, you know? And my point is, I think the city in the last couple of years raised their parking fines to, I think it's $75, so to be corrected, because they determined people weren't, they were parking illegally here because the ticket was cheaper than paying the parking down at Clearwater Beach. So that's why they got a lot more beach visitors, because it was a financial incentive. So I just point that out to you when you get ready to make a global, you know, decision, which I fully support. If you look at, you know, the parking fine for not paying should be incentivize them to pay. Thank you very much for everything.
Thanks, Bob.
Hey, Kelly. Kelly Watt, 431 Harbor Drive South. I just had a quick question. It says 376 public parking spaces. Do those include the golf cart parking spaces?
No, that's just vehicle parking.
So that would be, I guess, my question to you guys. Do we want to also have the golf carts pay for parking?
Thank you.
Jonathan Steele, 448 Harbor Drive South. So far, not a very contentious issue here. I agree with Dan, Kelly, Beth, Bob, and Kelly again on this. My only thing I might add to it, since you're opening up, and particularly in light of what Kelly just said, I would strongly suggest that when it comes to the golf cart parking, that it be resident only. And the reason for that is I've seen so many people in golf carts coming from Bel Air Bluffs, coming from Largo and all, oftentimes driving unregistered golf carts over here and holding up traffic for 4 miles. So it's like it's unsafe for having all these cars, all these golf carts holding up traffic coming over the bridge, particularly when it's crowded around, and just simply require that golf cart parking is resident. There's other problem quite nicely. So I hope you consider that. And again, I agree with everything you said. So thanks.
Anyone else have a comment?
John Thayer, 1819 Bay Boulevard in Rock Beach. I had a couple of 3 points written down here. I didn't realize we were this far along on charging for parking here. So I guess I scratched out the first one, was what problem we're trying to fix. It sounds to me from everybody on the city council, we're looking for dollar signs in our eyes just to make money. So I'm hoping that means we'll lower our taxes. Third thing is the big thing for me is the enforcement. We can't even keep a dog on the beach here.
Any other comment? I'm closing the public comment.
So it also brings up the interesting question of street parking as well, which has been a major issue of contention for people. As long as we're making it, if one were to make so many decisions contingent on the use of the resident sticker, would it be possible to allow for what used to be traditional street parking for residents only?
I like that idea.
Because you go over to your friend's house, you park on the lawn. And I don't want those people getting to the and it's been an issue because of all of the rentals. But if you make it a policy matter that you have to have a a resident sticker to be allowed to park on the street, as is the case in many places elsewhere, including Westchester. That solves that problem too. Going back to what question we're trying to solve here, that's one thing.
I like that idea. And you're right, there are many little areas that you have to have resident parking stickers to be a street parker.
So, I think, anyway.
I mean, the thing is we don't have to roll this out for the whole city all in one day. We can ramp it up as we go.
I was thinking January 1st sounded good.
Well, and then, I mean, if we were just doing the beach accesses,
I mean,
I think we need to do them all at once.
The tricky part on that is the extent to which we'll have to do land work around the field.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main stumbling block time-wise is around Cole Park and the baseball field. But I think most everything else is pretty plug and play.
And it is part of our budget to do that work around Cole Park, so that is at least in place. How fast can you line that up, Dean?
Well, I don't like to provide dates specific. Can we get this done by January 1? Probably not. I just, there's a lot more to it. Number one, you're gonna have to have an ordinance. It's gonna take a couple of readings to you. And there's also some logistics, number one, if you were gonna do Cole Park, we're more in tune this evening to get some guidance on where do you want to do it, how much do you want to charge, what hours do you want to do it, and so forth. If you want to do a stepped approach, we could do a stepped approach and do the beach accesses first, district second, parks third. That'll give us time to get our paving contractor in here and do stuff around Cole Park. There again, like I say, it's going to take a little bit of homework because, like I say, we have to look at the use of City Hall, the use of the library area, the use of Little League, senior softball, pickleball, all that kind of stuff. But it's not that we're not going to be able to do it. I just don't want to give you a time saying that we're going to be ready to go January 1.
But we can put it around the pickleball court, right?
I don't have parking by the pickleball court. I have on-street parking by the pickleball court, but there again, you're gonna have to give me some, you're gonna need a sticker if you want to restrict on-street parking to residents only.
Then we don't even need to pave anything.
You could also make the street parking paid parking. I believe.
You'd have to have, if you're gonna make paid parking, on-street paid parking, you're gonna have to have delineated parking spots. You can't just say, I'm gonna have 6 in front of
No, I
pickleball.
understood.
They have to have a delineated
But
spot.
it's not impossible if we really are trying to address the pickleball court problem.
Typically, you don't delineate parking spots on a two-way road. That's for travel, it's not for actual parking. Right now, they're doing it, yes ma'am, they are, but you don't want to create a northbound lane and that's all of your parking next to the park.
Yeah, so it makes it perhaps making one-way streets.
That's correct. You'd have to do similar to what we have down by the Historical Museum, where we have it's just back of curb where we added additional parking back there.
okay, so then we're not charging for handicap spots.
No.
I think the city attorney can appoint it to state law.
And they can park in any spot they want anyway.
Yeah.
So without a sticker or anything, so.
If they have a handicap placard, they can be in a paid spot and not
Right.
a state statute.
So the beach accesses have 182 spots available. The business district has 106 spots available. The nature preserve has 22 public spots available. Cole Park has 18 spots. City Hall Public Works has 46 spots, and Brown Park has 9.
And then there's the other little Park. What's it called? It's an H. The one by the Holiday Inn in the back, the volleyball court that has like 10 spots.
That's addressed in the business.
Is that's part of the business?
Yeah.
So then realistically, Dean, if we wanted to roll out all the parking spaces, we're probably, after we get it all voted in and knitted up, we're probably talking about like March next year.
That's probably doable by March.
Yeah.
Time for spring break.
Again, I mean, there's some logistics I have to get involved in to give you more date specific.
And there's a couple different ways to do it. I mean, there's the options. I spoke to the incoming city manager today, actually, and we talked about this subject. I don't want to speak to him for him too much, but there are options that he suggested of doing parking study or potentially a pilot program to try a particular area out, see how it works, and then expand. But he'll be here in 10 days as well. But it sounds like the general consensus is that we want paid parking, just the logistics of how we do it and exactly what to do. So I think with that direction, maybe staff can start looking in that direction at the different options and really got to think through the different impacts that it has. And Dan and I were talking about it today. You put it in the beaches, is that going to put it on the streets, obviously, going to fill up with parking. So what Commissioner Vaughn brought up is probably likely something that's going to have to be in conjunction with this. So there's a lot of moving pieces that you do with the citywide all at once. So I don't know if you have enough, Dan, but I think general consensus is if you move forward with some kind of parking, what that looks like, whether we can decide tonight or bring it back next meeting for more discussion once we can, maybe staff can do some research.
I heard pretty clear consensus to, move forward to the next level. So, the yes/no appears to be a yes by consensus. Is that agreed? You got to pay for studies too.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting
That's easy.
that we have a study.
I heard $4 mentioned several times, and again, tonight's not the night to get the final number. What we'll do, if that truly is $4, if is a consensus. I know I got one $4 vote, another head.
Yes,
Why?
yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. We can use that to go to at least Pinellas County and ask the county administrator, can we, is that doable to make that lot, if that's the way we're looking, maybe it's incremental. We can look into that. What we don't need to do tonight, and we haven't really done tonight, is specifically where and the hours. I've heard kind of different things on that. And then, of course, you guys added in a thing that wasn't really in the agenda memo, which is only parking on the street allowable with parking decals. I think I heard consensus for decals and into the pay spots anytime for residents. So if you could just maybe give me a little clarification so Matt and Dee know where you're at on the hours and where you're at on the where in terms of parks versus beach access.
Maybe just for easy record keeping, maybe we could go these questions and we can take a vote. Okay.
And also I want to clarify the difference between street parking and whatever spaces we put around the parks. That would be a different kind of thing. Street parking is the random parking that residents do. Where you just leave your cars.
Yeah, I know you singled out just me and me, but I cleared the next 10 days, so I mean, you could get this.
Yeah, I've got nothing but time
before you
I'm here.
So, does somebody want to make a motion on $4 for an hour for paid parking?
I make a motion that we charge $4 per hour for paid parking.
I don't think we need necessarily, but I would just go through the list for each person and we'll take your opinions on it and we'll digest
that's
it
fine.
after. I apologize.
Okay, so $4 for an hour for paid parking on it.
Yes.
Everyone just gonna say yes, that'd be great.
Yes.
Yes.
No, for me, I'm at $8 an hour, but I'm willing to negotiate.
We don't have to negotiate with you on this.
It's 4 to 1, it's $4.
Just one for record there.
So unanimous at $4.
March, was that
Yes.
last year?
Oh, no,
I'm sorry.
serious.
I'm
I
sorry.
think it was a joke.
Yeah, no, he was, I think that's lower than it was last time we talked about it.
Yeah, I was at 10 last time.
And then maybe we'll just go down the days of where do you think the paid spot should be? Commissioner King, we'll start with you, just come down the line.
Yeah, everywhere that was on Dean's list that he provided to us, which was all the parks, the beach accesses, the city hall. I know we're gonna get to the street parking a little bit later. I think we gotta have a good definition of that. I also, when we get to that discussion, if it's not now, consider those, those of us that do host friends and family at their homes that have nowhere to park other than the streets in front, so that would be a little bit of a challenge too.
So the location, does everyone agree with Dean's list, the agenda that was given out today?
I agree.
Every single one?
Yes.
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 Maybe you can squeeze a couple more.
And then the hours. What do we think about the hours? Do we like the city park dawn to dusk?
I like the beach accesses where they're at for their hours, when their open hours. Which doesn't answer your question at all.
But they,
Well, it sounds like we already, Dina, is that correct? We already have designated hours in these various, well, the parks are
Well,
dawn to dusk, the accesses.
The beach accesses are from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Okay? The residents are there, they're allowed to be there because they have resident parking. But the typical public parking on the beach accesses are from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m.
I agree with Jude, I like that.
Well, remember, that even further stretches our ability to enforce with current staff.
Which is like an 8 to 8.
you mean Frank's not gonna get out at 11 o'clock?
I love Frank, he probably will if you pay him accordingly. He will do it 24 hours a day. But, we are not current, don't get me wrong, we can change staffing and add staffing or modify staffing, but we, as was brought up multiple times, I have to agree, I hate to be a part of something and then, it doesn't get enforced because, we don't have it at 6 a.m. and we certainly don't have one out here at 11 p.m. Really we work code till about 6:30 at night is kind of what we've been doing to try and catch people parking in resident spots after hours and kind of in that post 4 o'clock. There'll have to be another discussion. The new city manager will certainly have thoughts with his staff that he will think about what he can and can't do with, something new in terms of paid parking, I'm not saying it can't be done, but, it's the classic, you can't park 2 cars in one spot, somebody can't do 2 things at once. So, it can be rearranged from a management standpoint, but I see a challenge with current staffing and hours with 6 to 11 p.m. So I would, don't get me wrong, we can look at that, but what's going to have to come back to you is probably some semblance of a cost potentially associated with that or a change in staffing. So
I
just
think that would be appropriate. I mean, we've got to do that study. So if we look at paid parking and there is enough revenue to cover another staff member, then I think that's a fair thing to come back with.
Yeah, I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I've heard the consensus, at least 2 so far, park hours, if you will. So that'll, I just wanted to throw out the discussion that that'll have to be I'll have to include a discussion about,
Right.
changing the
But we
staff.
look at dawn to dusk or dawn to 11 p.m.
In answer to your question from before, we could, 8 to 6 around anywhere like this makes a certain amount of sense, or something like that, 9, whatever it is. so that you get, people are coming in to do whatever they're doing, they can park and pay, but that also frees up evening ball games and that sort of stuff. And it also makes it fiscally a little more manageable. I guess, I don't know. But 8 to 6 doesn't appall me in the rest of the places.
I'll just throw something in, I don't mean to interrupt everything, but like, something simple like the nature preserve. Okay, the nature preserve is open from 7 a.m. to dusk. So that's pretty simple, at the nature preserve. You know, but then when you get, like you say, as Commissioner Bond was saying, around City Hall, you've got a bunch of variables. You know what I'm saying? Brown Park. Yeah, they may not be going to the park because it closes at a certain time, but they may want to go to the beach and park at Brown Park. So that's the caveat you have with all these different little spots that we want to implement the paid parking.
But it's still doable. I mean, other cities have different.
Yeah, no, you can, any sign, the sign will depict any hours you want to enforce.
So maybe that just makes sense that we have paid parking during the hours that those parks are open and available. That we just have to consider what do we do with the beach access when we don't really have staff.
And then the commercial
business,
the business district, of course.
Yeah.
I imagine may end up being something, well, because that's a lot of sunset parking.
Yeah, right.
So
That might be another
8 to 6.
8 to 11 kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or 8 to 10 or whatever, yeah, some vary with that. But that's prime nighttime parking revenue.
From a legal standpoint, I would just ask that the commission, in weighing all this, make sure you're considering the enforcement, the cost of enforcement, because I don't want the city to be in a position where we have an ordinance that we're unable to properly enforce and being more legal consequences because of that. So the cost of enforcement is something we should consider. I don't know the best route to go to get that information for you. I think it all depends on whether residents park free or not. And there's all kinds of different what revenue this would generate, and then how many people additionally than what we have would be needed. But I think we can start looking into that.
I wonder if talking to some of our neighbor cities, because obviously we're the only ones that aren't, asking them, what are the things that you've done? What works? What does it take? How much does it cost? I mean, I think we've got some great examples that we can use to at least get us some baseline information to go from.
Yeah, I think that would be part of, a study, if you will, is certainly to analyze what our surrounding communities are doing from a standpoint of enforcement.
Any other questions you need answers on?
Well, I think we decided that the hours, we're going to come back with that, so I think we have the cost and the locations, and maybe now staff can work with that.
Yeah, I think that's a great
Start.
amount of information to get it out of the blocks
Okay.
for the next 10-day discussion with the city attorney. And again, this is probably the easy one, because it's been on the agenda, but I'm calling out the press, but, the secret's out now, so probably when we bring it back with a little bit more specific discussion, there'll be more folks that be interested in providing input and we can further kind of polish and mold the final product. We need to do that. So, yeah, I'm good if you guys are good.
Oh, and I guess looking at different systems, payment systems.
Yeah, that's correct. I don't have any experience with Park Mobile. That's not who we're using for the county lot. It's more of a standalone. You buy the meter and you put paper in it. You pay to have it monthly serviced, and we use a merchant service for the credit card. That doesn't work for I'm interested to see. I will look into what St. Pete Beach does for cash parking. Cash was a real challenge with that machine for the folks that have been around a long time. They used to try and manage wet dollar bills in that thing, and it just didn't work. I've got 6-inch longer arms than when I started here in my career, because I used to carry the quarters to the bank on a weekly basis when Greg eliminated my armored car out of the budget to save a little bit of money. So we did credit card only, that works. There's always a note every now and then, Dee loves them, that, it's illegal not to take cash and run American, but for the most part, credit cards work a lot. But there are problems, sometimes you go over credit card, over the phone, and there's no perfect system, but what Park Mobile does have for the city, this is the finance director will be talking about this, is a piggybackable contract that one size fits all, for the number of spots you got and the fees. So it's easy from that standpoint to know how much, what you're getting into from a standpoint of what it'll cost you to have them serviced. And probably if they're the monopoly that we heard they are, that price is going up, and that's part of a monopoly. At that point, they do have control over that. And that's all stuff that'll be brought back, ultimately when implementation prior to doing that, will have to be discussed, what's it going to cost to run it. This will be a well looked at revenue stream that kind of is probably tracked on a quarterly, monthly basis, and looked at from your budget standpoint on an annual basis, and projections made and adjustments made, all that kind of stuff. So, but anyways, I think, I'm not speaking for Matt or Dean, but I think we got enough to get started. Do you agree?
Yeah.
And Matt, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
And Mayor, you're not going to believe this. This is probably. Oh, go ahead.
Just about this subject, so that way when we put this back on the work session, we can be really clear what we need to look back at. So not only are, we've cleared, cost and location, but when we come back, we need to talk about hours and the system that we want to select. So.
Can you tell me roughly how many resident parking stickers are out there?
1,800 for 70.
Each resident's allowed 2.
Yeah.
We have gotten closer to 2,000 and some odd by the time we get through the
Each year
cycle that they're good for.
Yeah, each year's pushing 2,000.
All right.
Sometimes we have residents that do not properly pass them to their vehicles, and they might pass them around. That might be a problem you can come with, if the low resident park free or accesses.
Yeah, well, the ordinance that requires adherence to the vehicle will take care of that. She's kind of referring to the reality that,
Their meter person will have to tell them.
the parking detail process is a very interesting study in human behavior in terms of people trying to get them that aren't supposed to get them, and stories about how they were lost, and the code guys could do a whole, television series about the games played with them once they're out in the world. But, again, just another enforcement challenge. But, okay, well, are we all good on parking? Is there anything else? Because I hate to do this, but before we adjourn, this is Murphy's Law, or whatever the term is, I forgot to be a part of the prompting that we need to open up item 7A to public comment for the budget adjustment. If we did that, I missed it, and I don't want any, even though that was a fairly non-controversial item, I certainly want to check the box. So if you're okay, Mayor, if you could, Matt, is that okay to open up?
Yes, I'd like to open up
The mayor and I are already discussing.
Okay, sorry.
expenses and adopting a budget amendment that I would like to open that up for public comment if anybody has any comments or questions about that.
We got it. Right up there.
You want to make a comment, sir? Come on up to the booth.
Sure.
Right up there. State your name and address also, please.
Neil Lieberman, 2507 Bay Boulevard. I want to make a comment. A lot of people come here and complain. I ran for political office years ago up north, dealing with criticism, I think you guys do that very well. But at a previous meeting, I made a suggestion, I don't know if you were here, was on the board. I'm pretty friendly with Cookie, the previous mayor, and the comment I made was, there was a light that was out across the street, and one of the pickleball lights. And I mentioned safety is an issue, because there's a playground next to it. The next day, the light went up. Thank you. Now, if I could volunteer, another suggestion, as far as donations, when people park at the church. Every church, house of worship, needs money. I have observed many people parking there. They don't even, whether they live here or not, they don't even donate a dime. I don't know how you all feel about this. You might want a discussion in session. But I think there should be some type of a sign, maybe a person there. You park here, you decide how much. Because many people take advantage of parking. You're close to the beach. I have gone to both churches. I've only lived here a few weeks, but I'm very involved. This is a wonderful community. And it's safe, thanks to our police officers. When I ran for park commission, I'll be brief because you want to adjourn, it wasn't in such a wonderful neighborhood. It was in a place called the South Bronx. And I once went up to a police officer there who had worked there. And I said, you ever work in the South Bronx? Oh, yes. And he was a big guy. He said, why do you bring that up? I said, because I used to be a phys ed teacher in the South Bronx. Safety is not an issue here. I think we'll all agree. That's part of the reason. That's part of the reason why many people choose to live here. So once again, sorry if I'm roundabout. I just flew in, had a vacation in Europe. So I just had espresso. So may I suggest? And I also do stand-up comedy, but I don't get paid. Oh, yes. We have some sports bars. I live a few blocks away. But once again, the police officers or sheriffs in this town?
Sheriffs.
Sheriffs. Okay. They got their work cut out on weekends. I see people speeding, drunk. Yeah, I guess some of them were arrested, I was told. And finally, I want to pay a compliment. I asked this nice sheriff in the back, a sheriff, my girlfriend at the time locked the two of us in the bathroom. So we had a window, and somehow I was able to get, anyway, two sheriffs arrived. One of them took a ladder, okay, and climbed up. He said, you know what? If I didn't hit that, a fire department would just smash the window. So I want to pay a compliment, I'll find out who it is, to that sheriff who did that. I've met many of the people who live here. This is a great town. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.